What if I told you that the master key to helping others is found when you take great care of yourself? Hello, and welcome to another episode of What's Your View? In the house today, I have a seriously powerful group of people. Um, Positivity at its best. And I'll tell you, these people don't just talk about being positive and doing good in the world, they are being about it and they're helping other people to do the same. And I'm going to start off with Deputy Mayor Naomy De Peña, who you've seen before here. And if you haven't seen her, go back to episode episode 14 and episode 17, where she and I talk a lot about her Hope to Courage project. And we get into the whys. Now we're doing a check-in, and we're looking at some of the people that Naomy has recruited on this project to help people, because you can tell people to be hopeful, right? You can tell people to be courageous, but when you're in the face of real trials and tribulations, it's not always that easy, right? So it's nice to have reminders, and it's nice to have people who live by what they say. So welcome, you guys.
Thank you for having us, Samya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. And so, Naomy, how is it going?
It's going amazing, Samya. The last time we spoke, we had this dream, right? This potential capability to help people. And now we are speaking from a place of understanding of what people are truly needing. And I think that when we spoke, my message is that we cannot legislate people into hope. We can't legislate people out of fear. So, as an elected official, I found myself wanting to do more for people. As a small business owner, I also found the need to connect the community to the services that we have. And with the blessing of the internet, we can connect people on a virtual platform. So this dream to bring people to help them ascend from fear into hope and from hope into courage began with these 21 days of gratitude, and knowing that gratitude is the bridge from fear into hope. But also there are key people that are teaching everyone how to do what they need to do, by stacking habits and creating a space that allows them to be thankful, to be better, and to ascend from fear into hope.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. So let's get into introducing the panel so we know who we have with us today. Naomy, you want to take us through, and everybody can kind of give us a sense of who you are and what type of wonderful work you're doing?
Absolutely. So I guess they can introduce themselves, right? We can go ahead.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Jay, you want to start off the pack?
Sure. So I'm Jay. I am what's called a clinical herbalist. I guess the best way to describe it would be the love child between holistic medicine and Western medicine. So I study phytochemistry, biochemistry, and environmental toxicity, basically trying to figure out ways to use the science and magic of plants to help people alleviate symptoms.
Nice. Okay. And John, you want to go next?
Absolutely. Sure. My name is John Salama with Elevate Consulting, and I do fitness coaching, health and wellness coaching, and life coaching. And I focus more on the happiness that we find within, instead of just trying to chase happiness, right? That's what everybody does nowadays. We're chasing it, and it's not necessarily in the right direction, right? Like we turn to vigor because every single direction there is something that you might be happy about. But in reality, happiness starts within you. Happiness starts with you. So don't chase it. Find it inside of you.
I like that. And Daniel?
Yes, so I'm Daniel Delia. I'm an educator, author, personal growth coach, and transformational speaker. So as you can see, there's several roles that I play, but when I'm working with clients, students, whatever, basically I kind of work within, right? Starting with the mindset. A lot of my methods deal with psychology, philosophy, looking at the bigger picture, right? Most of us, we get so scrambled in the moment, right? And I kind of get people to focus on the bigger picture, obviously starting with gratitude and then allowing people to empower themselves, turning that why me attitude into try me, right?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so it really starts with that positivity and then writing of smart goals and then being able to do those goals so that they follow through, right? And that's how we get more encouragement, and that's how we get more confident. And the more things we become confident, we can kind of just start knocking it out from there, right? Start small and then work bigger as things go on.
Well, wonderful. And now Tim, the Sackman.
Hey, thank you. My name's Tim, the Sackman Manthey, and I am a martial arts for mental health coach. Training on a punching bag and creating a daily sustainable routine for myself is what helped me save my life and overcome clinical depression. And now I share the tools to save my life every day live on Instagram through a virtual training program where we mix martial arts techniques with mental health tools. And I travel the country in a Volkswagen bus that has a punching bag attached to it, offering free heavy bag therapy to anybody in need.
Wonderful. And Samya?
Good morning, friends. My name is Samya Santos. I have my degree in psychology. I am part of the John Maxwell team. I am an assistant pastor in the city of Trenton, New Jersey. But one of my greatest projects, which is very dear to my heart, is a project that we have called an organization called Creados para Más, which is an organization that basically helps our Latino community to provide them tools to be able to rise above and find other ways to be able to reach their goals.
Wonderful. And we lost Frances.
Ah.
Hopefully she'll come back in and she can introduce herself. But guys, was I kidding when I said that this was a Power Pack group? Seriously so. So let's talk about this now. Let's talk about the fact that we're living in a time of great tragedy, right? But they say in times of great tragedy, there's also opportunity for triumph, right? So, I'm going to go to you, Daniel. Like, what do you have to say about that? Like, what's been your personal response to the current times that we're living in and how you're dealing with it?
So I always am the person in the room who will find that positivity in any situation. I will always try to find that silver lining. So if something really terrible happens, I'll say, okay, yeah, that happened, but let's focus on, what we still have control over. And I really try to focus on the things that I can control, right? I can control my response to something. I may not be able to control what happens, but I can control my response to it, right? I can overreact. I can, drop everything and say life is over, or I can say, all right, let's take this case by case. So when I'm, speaking to anyone, I always try to say that let's take this case by case. Let's look at I always say one thing at a time, one day at a time, right? If I look at things one thing at a time, one day at a time, and I get through each of those things, then I can have control over those things, right? I always say, let's focus on the things that we have control over, right? And then everything else that kind of happens, it's a case by case. I always give the approach of being proactive versus reactive, right? So if I know that, there's a chance that something can happen with my health, right? Then I want to make that a priority. I want to make sure that I'm taking my vitamins, I'm getting the proper amount of sleep, my mental health is in check, right? I'm working out, I'm doing things properly so that I'm not just waiting for the world to fall, right? I'm ready to catch it if that happens. And I think that, giving that empowerment, like I said, instead of that why me to that try me approach, giving that empowerment, saying, yeah, things are going to happen in life, but if you're not ready for the blow, right, then it's going to hit you hard. So you got to be ready for that blow, whatever direction it may come in. So that's what I always try to kind of preach. I live that on a daily basis. And I think that really kind of helps with that empowerment and that positivity.
Right. How about you, Samya?
Hi, friends. I can actually really resonate with what Daniel just said. We had a program that just aired this Wednesday, and we were just talking about the importance of being prepared. When you're prepared for things, when things come, it doesn't seem as such a big blow. So that's basically where we are at, this during this past 2 years that we've all experienced in different ways. I have lost many loved ones, about 10, including my dad who committed suicide. Had um, we found several days later, and these were things that definitely rocked my boat. But
Yeah.
while all of these things were going on, I had just opened up a church. I had just launched Creados para Más, and I had just started getting back to college. I was doing all of these things at the same time. So basically, the only thing that helped me to surpass this time was, yes, focusing on the things that I can control. There's this verse in the Bible, without going into scripture, but it talks about renewing the mind. So I had to be renewing my mind all of the time and setting my mindset on the positive things and surrendering everything else that I couldn't control of, just so that I can make it, to the next day. And here we are. I was able to finish my degree. We are about to start. We just started season 2 of Creados para Más, and the church is 2 years old now. But yes, this is basically just surrendering the things that you can't control, with intentionality, and focusing on the things that you can.
Wow. And I'm willing to bet there's a whole lot of the audience that resonate with what you're saying, because right now so many people are going through so much loss,
Yeah.
and so much grief and so much shock, because there's been so much change, that how do you continue to function? But you show us that we can do that,
Yes,
and we
definitely.
can thrive while we do it, which is a powerful, powerful message. You
Yeah.
know, Tim, the Sackman, you're going around the country and
That's right.
addressing depression head on. Talk to
100%.
me. Talk to me about that, especially in today's climate.
Thank you. So, yes, I'm traveling the country and I'm offering free heavy bag therapy to anyone in need. So, anyone diagnosed with depression or anxiety, if they'd like to try this outlet as a form of somatic healing, it's what helped me grow through what I was going through. And I
Mhm.
think that's the same kind of sentiment that I share with pretty much everybody here, even though we haven't heard from all of them yet. I think we can all kind of agree that life is going to present us with challenges every single day, no matter what time we're in. But we get to choose how we handle those challenges, how we grow through them, how we prepare ourselves to handle the next challenges that come up. And for me, a daily training routine within martial arts has helped me continually accomplish a set goal. And that has reinforced in me that no matter what happens, no matter what challenges we're going through, I'm going to be able to improve my life. I'm going to be able to get stronger, accomplish that daily goal, and then be prepared to handle and move forwards as life continues to present challenges.
That's absolutely wonderful. And are you seeing more depression now within like like when did you start this?
Oh, well, I started it. Actually, I keep track of my progress. I started it. This might be backwards on your camera. I'm not sure. But at 875 days ago, I started a
Wow.
daily training routine. And I've been sharing that with the world for 875 days. I have not missed a day. I've punched
Impressive.
through sickness and health, through COVID, through the pandemic, and even before COVID, was offering this service to my local community in town, just right out of my apartment. Built a studio, and I was training people there. Um,
Wow.
it, in response to your question, there's absolutely a greater need right now for tools, and there's a greater need for people to find those tools that work for them as individuals, because we all handle depression differently, and we all have different challenges. But though the causes may be different, the effects of depression are the same. And that's why it's
Mhm.
important to find the tools that work for you, because I'm sharing tools that work for me and ones that have helped others. Like gratitude is a huge one. We focus on gratitude every day, right at the beginning of the show. And just that tool alone has been helping a lot of people to focus on those silver linings, find those things to be positive for, even in the midst of the struggles that we're dealing with right now.
That's one that is awesome, honestly. Um, Jay, if I were a betting person, I'd make a lot of money on the fact that your phone is probably ringing off the hook right about now. As an herbalist in this day and time, I'm sure you're getting people who, you know, want answers and want to know how to prepare and want to, because one of the common themes I'm hearing is this idea that being prepared is important, and also seeing the silver lining and stuff is important. So your work, tell me about how you've been responding to this crisis and what what you're seeing in your practice.
So my grandpa, he taught me some time ago, and he actually recently passed as well. So I did want to touch on death a little bit, but I'll come back to it. He said to me, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And, the effects of depression is interconnected with, the things that we eat. The food that we ingest contains information, and that information translates to depression. It can translate to anxiety. It can translate to stress. So understanding how the diet affects how we feel is really important. And of course, there's always running support with herbs, but the goal is to really get to the root cause of the problem. Covering up symptoms won't really fix much, especially if you keep trying to cover the symptom up with different ways of kind of pampering it or band-aiding it. We want to try to really get into the deep layers. And that's really going back into yourself and understanding why we make the choices and decisions that we make. Why do we respond in the ways that we respond? Or why do we have these reflexive responses to our quote unquote triggers?
Wonderful. Wonderful. John, what's talk to me about your response to this tough time that we're living in.
So Naomi and I had an amazing experience together a few months ago, and we got to go to the Tony Robbins experience. And while we're there, Tony said literally a 3-word sentence, and that just stuck with me like beyond anything else. And it's, your emotion controls your motion. And unfortunately, nowadays, we live based on our emotions. So if your emotion is in a negative direction, your motion is going to be in a negative direction. And because of the fitness industry, the health and wellness industry, the life coaching industry that we're in, we're dealing with people who are constantly in the emotional state of what's happening in the world right now. People get up every single morning and the first thing they watch is the news, right? So right off the bat, right then and there is a whole lot of mixed emotions happening. Whether they believe in it or not believe in it, that's what's happening. We don't get the opportunity to prime ourselves or meditate or anything like that. So then I ask people the one question: what are the patterns that you're realizing in your everyday life that's causing the emotions that you're feeling right now? What are you doing? Write it out, write it down, because like there is a whole lot that's happening already. So why are we adding to it? What is the first thing that you do when you get up in the morning? And then followed by what? And then by what? And then are you realizing how you're responding to people? Are you realizing how you're responding to your health? Are you realizing how you're responding to your eating habits? Because all that is controlled by the emotion. And the motion comes in play based on the now, based on the minute that I'm living at this moment, right? So then, okay, we realize the patterns. Okay, great. So what's next? Are you reacting or are you responding, right? Both reacting and responding is controlled by our emotional stage, right? The thing is, the reacting stage, I'm in my downstairs brain. I'm in the amygdala part of the brain. If we guys know anything about the brain, the amygdala is the one that is our emotional response. It's like, fight or flight kind of respond, right? The responding, I'm in the prefrontal cortex. I'm in my upstairs brain. So I'm able to make better decisions, right? The thing is, we get into situations, things happen in our life real quick, and we don't know how to respond to it. So therefore we react. Like all of a sudden, everybody's saying, I need to prepare myself to what may happen in life. Sometimes we're going to prepare ourselves day and night, but things will happen and it's going to come to you and you're like, wait, what just happened? Like, how did this just happen to me? How did this happen to my life, right? So now you're in the reacting stage. Take a quick second, sit back, take a deep breath and realize, okay, what just happened is out of my control. How do I need to respond to it? What do I need to do to be in control? Because once you lose control, sometimes it's too late. So
Right.
like that is, again, and this is like, I believe it was Daniel that said, like, what's happening right now? What is the positive thing that's happening right now that I'm going to pull out of the situation, right? Even if it's death, even if it's a divorce, even if it's a failure in life or something happened in life, we earn while we're learning. Okay. So if we look at the word learn, we earn while we learn. Well, okay. So as I'm in this moment right now and something bad happened to me, I'm earning something from it. I'm learning something from it. Something positive is going to come out of it. I just need to find it in order for me to be in the emotional intelligence stage, which is the responding stage, before I'm able to react.
Wow, you guys are dropping all kinds of nuggets today.
I told you,
Just a
Samya,
little
this
bit.
is an awesome team.
Yes, you guys are. This is so wonderful. So Naomi, so we're asking people, right? Like I said earlier, we're asking people to have hope, right? And we're asking them to actively work on it. But what I really like about what you've done here and what all of you are doing here is that you're not just saying, some people will say, be positive, right?
Yes.
But when you're in a negative state, when you're going through hell, because some people are right now, they're watching the show and they're going through hell. How do I get out of it?
Yeah.
Right. And you guys are throwing that rope with some practical advice, with practical ways of thinking about it. And I really, really love that.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I started looking at was the conversations I was having with people and what were the things that were causing them fear. So the common theme was fear, but what was causing fear was very different for everyone. And like I believe we discussed this before, where everyone in the beginning of this process started saying we're all in the same boat. But I started to realize we're not all in the same boat, right? We're all in the same storm, but everybody's in different boats. And
like
some
that.
are in a yacht and some are in a floaty, some are swimming on their own. And the concept of we're all in the same boat, it assumes that everyone has the same access to resources and a support system, and that's not the truth. So that is where I decided, okay, what are people struggling with? They want security as to what can they do preventively for their health. So we need to touch upon nutritionists, we have to have herbalists, we have to have doctors and nurses, talk to people about what they can do, because I think we realize now after 2 years that we're not avoiding things here. We have to try to figure out how to live with them. And one of the most beautiful things that I've loved about this process has been interviewing people and learning about their experience and how they're dealing with this. So we had the opportunity to interview Father Ivan, who is one of the religious leaders in our community, and he spoke about the word crisis coming from the Greek krisos, which means a time of opportunity. And I just thought how timely and what a powerful mindset when we look at crisis. Like you said, we're in a time of opportunity. And what is the opportunity? We have the opportunity to grow. We have the opportunity to come together as a community, to realize the resources that are out there. And I think what many people fail to see is that our brains were not designed to have the amount of sensory overload that we receive, the amount of information that we receive in a 5-minute span. We see what someone's doing at their house. We see what's happening in 3,000 miles away. And the fact that the news are a business and that headlines have to make you want to click, and fear sells. And we have to be aware of that. Fear is going to make you click. They're going to give you a headline that will bring you to that. That's not going to make you hopeful. And that's why I love shows like yours, Samya, who are bringing a different perspective to this, realizing our bodies are exhausted from being in this state of anxiety and stress. What else is out there for me to be worried about?
Right.
How about what else is there? What else is going great? What else can I do to center myself, to remove some of that sensory overload? Because we were not made, our brains were not designed for the amount of information that we're getting all at once. So my perspective was, if people are going to still be on social media and on the internet, well, how about we create these little nuggets of positivity so that in the middle of all of that, we can interrupt our pattern and say, oh, this is happening, this is awful. Wait, hold on. Here's a positive post. Here's hope. And that is what hope is that the what faith creates in you. It's something it's unseen. It's the hope that something is coming, creating that opportunity, creating a compelling future. And that's the first step, to be able to walk into courage and then starting to live your life boldly, whatever that looks like for you.
Right. And you know what? I want to inject right here that when we want to see better in this world, we have to put our energy there. So I'm going to say that, guys, y'all are watching, in the show notes is going to be the links to Hope to Courage, which is the entire project. But I'm going to have links to all of the panelists too, because when you have people out here doing this work, we have to do our part and give them our support and give them our attention, right? And in so doing, that's where the better comes in, right? We have to turn our face away from that negativity and turn it to the positivity. So just so you guys know, I'm expecting everybody to watch this show, to reach out and support everyone on this panel and support the Hope to Courage project. Why? Because we need hope, and we doggone sure need some courage.
That's right.
It's going to take all of that to get us through these years, because we're not just doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for our children.
Yeah. Yeah. And Samya, if I may add, I had a conversation with a constituent a week ago where this person told me, I have not left my house for 4 months. And it started with me not leaving my house. And then now I can't get out of my bed. Oh. And just by me inviting this person to an event, she found hope. She found purpose. She said, maybe this is what I have to do. Maybe I do have to start by getting out of the house. And, right. Where we might have thought that people would experience anxiety, depression in the beginning of this process, this is a marathon, right? Like we're going for the long haul. So you can experience that at any moment. And I want people to know that it doesn't always show as sadness. Right? Anxiety, depression doesn't always show as sadness. You might be exhausted. You might feel physically very tired, unable to concentrate, short-tempered. And in my conversations with small business owners, it's something I've seen very often, right? In the beginning of this process, people will tell, stay home, save lives. But small business owners, a lot of people that were essential workers, didn't have the benefit. They didn't have the luxury of staying home to save lives. They had to go out of their homes to save lives.
Right.
So those are the people that have been, it's like an elastic. They've been stretched and stretched, and eventually you lose your elasticity. And this is the point, the checkpoint, where a lot of people that had to remain strong are falling apart right now. So I want people to be aware of that maybe that is you. Maybe this wasn't relevant to you a year ago or 2 years ago, but now you're looking at it and say, yeah, all of these health issues are showing up. All of these headaches and migraines and that all of these things are interconnected. And I'm not the expert in that, but that's why I brought all these amazing experts to help people understand that anxiety, depression, it can all show in many different ways in your body. Your body talks to you, lets you know what you need. And it starts with changing your mindset. Secondly, changing our habits so that then that can show into what we do, into our actions.
Right. Absolutely. So now we're living in like the middle of what they're calling like a pandemic, right? And people are getting sick. I know a lot of people who are sick all over the place. Yeah. And so, Jay, I'm going to cycle to you right now and ask you if you could give advice for one thing, like have this one thing in your medicine cabinet to be prepared, what would it be?
Wow.
I know it's hard to reduce that to one thing. I know that. So feel free if you need to do 3 or whatever. But
so wow. I think with what we're experiencing, where everyone in every way is experiencing death. And it's not just death of family members, but it's death of a society that we're used to. It's death of
Yes.
old versions of ourselves.
Yes.
And we have to grieve these things.
Mhm.
And death, for me, has become my greatest teacher. And
Mm.
that's how I was able to go through my own transitions and experiences, which were, I guess in a sense, in all sense of the words, death. So death kind of gives us that ability to revisit and appreciate every single day. So hope is the one thing you definitely want to make sure you have in your cabinet. And that holistic perspective, we always have to look at the outside and the inside. So I'm going to give a little bit of the science and a little bit of the intangible. So hope is the intangible, but it does exist and it does play a huge part. The physical, if there was a chemical constituent or a plant that would say everyone should have in their cabinet, hands down, ginger is by far the safest and contains so many chemical constituents in it. It's you have to have it. And onions are surprisingly effective as well. But ginger is definitely something you want to make sure you have in your cabinet for sure.
Wow. And so ginger and onions, that's stuff you have in your kitchen anyway. So it's in the kitchen and the cabinet.
Yes, definitely. Those are things
that's
that
wonderful.
will help manage the gut health. But there's also some natural things that we can use to help manage our mental health. I think I did a short video on how effective the scent of clary sage is. And what clary sage does is it also affects the amygdala of the brain. It stimulates the production of serotonin, melatonin in the brain so that it kind of gives you those feel-good transmitters again. And just the scent of it actually triggers that as well. Clary sage has a long history of being used for relieving cramping, and they call it clary sage because it gives you clarity of mind. And that's something you definitely want to keep in your cabinet. Things that relaxes the body. There's actually antidepressant qualities of natural vanilla. It contains, when combined with pepper, it'll open up GABA receptors in the brain. And this is why vanilla, natural, and I mean vanilla imported from Madagascar. So go to the supermarket,
chemical soup they put together and call
you find three beans of Madagascar vanilla. They cost you $20 for a reason, because the chemical constituents is very similar to Prozac. So it's not a fix it, but it's something to give you those moments of clarity so that while you're working on the inner you, the spiritual you, the mindfulness you have those physical reminders that becomes tangible. They work together in conjunction.
I love that. Okay, good. I didn't know that about vanilla. It's always learning something new here, right? And this is just so wonderful.
Samya, if I may interject, I would love for Jay to speak a little bit about also the power of the outdoors during this process, because I know that's something you've been sharing in those little nuggets, because that's not something you have to buy, right? So would that be okay, Jay? Could you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So as a clinical herbalist, I'm always outside, even in the cold. And you'll be surprised how just being outside literally starts to change after 20 minutes. They've done studies where it changes.
In the cold too?
In the cold.
I can tell
it doesn't matter.
12 degrees, and he was out there in the cold, in the rain every day.
Wow.
Yes. And I think I talked about how just being outside can adjust how your brainwave functions. We do live in a world where there's so many, the sensory overload. We don't see the Wi-Fi, but we know that it's there. And the only thing that's going to interrupt those frequencies is when you're near dense vegetation. And touching the soil is extremely important. We've become so very disconnected from what's nature. And when you're going into these areas where there's dense vegetation, you're going to run into something called these ley lines, which is where the earth has its own pulse. That pulse stimulates millivolts of electricity that's supposed to resonate within each cell. Every cell makes anywhere between 70 to 90 millivolts of electricity, depending upon what type of cell. We've done science where we actually can look at a cell and determine if this cell is going to become cancerous, because cancer cells generally generate between 20 and 40 millivolts. When you're on soil and in a dense vegetation, the electricity that comes from these intersecting ley lines of the Becker-Hagens grid feeds your cells energy, which actually becomes anti-inflammatory. So just being outside, as strange as it sounds, hugging trees and being in nature is actually healing and has an anti-inflammatory effect. It's similar to how when people go to Florida, they just feel better. They don't know why, but
Yeah.
you feel good.
Nothing to
It's
do with the freedom.
nothing to do with the freedom. It's the ionization of having so much moving water. Water that moves creates a negative ionic charge. It pulls free radicals right out of the skin. The same thing happens with dense vegetation. So finding the time and a space to give yourself that 30 minutes of meditation, whether you're doing something that you love, cleaning is meditation, playing a singing bowl is meditation. It's just making sure that your focus and concentration on something else is important. And where you put yourself is also important. So I learned from myself that I am an external meditator, meaning when I'm outside, that's when I have the best opportunity to meditate. So being outside is really important. I know I'm going on a tangent, so I'm going to slow down.
I'm loving every second of it. I mean, guys, y'all know that. I mean, and y'all, I'm talking to you guys too. Y'all gonna have to come back here individually because we're trying to cram all this goodness into one show, and we can't. We can't get it all in. But don't be surprised when y'all hear from me, because we're gonna have to revisit a lot of this.
Yes.
So go ahead. Finish your thought.
So yeah, being outside is extremely important. So the soil does produce that electricity. And the last point that I did want to bring up was when we're outside, knowing the science is great. And I love the science and I love the holistic approach and I love marrying the two, but suppose it's not for everyone to get into all those details. But being outside, you can still learn a lot when you're walking on a hiking path and you're walking past trees and you're looking around. Even in the cold, you're going to find answers. The plants talk to you. So if you walk past a tree and you notice that there's something green on this tree, that tree is telling you that I have something that can survive in 12-degree weather. Maybe I can help you. I can help you with your seasonal blues. If you look down on the ground and there's like stinging nettles, or if you find turkey tail mushrooms, or if you find pine trees and they're still green in 12-degree weather, they're telling you that their constituents, their compounds have something for you during this season, which surprisingly is very true. The pine tree has a chemical called shikimic acid that pharmaceutical companies actually use to make something called Tamiflu, which we've all heard of. So there's an interconnectedness with nature and just being out there. The plants will teach you, so you bring that home with you and you'll never know what type of intimate experience you may have with that plant.
Wow. And see, what you're talking about is the intimate connection I feel that many of us have lost with nature. Right? We're relying on television and advertising, people who have their own reason to be doing this stuff to tell us, like what you said, if you're walking in nature, you see the pine tree thriving, and it should occur to you that maybe it would help you do the same thing in the cold.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's just so wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And Daniel, I want to cycle back to you because your life's work seems to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to be focused on bringing out the full potential in people.
Yes. So you're 100% right. So if I were to give one piece of advice in 3 words, right, it would be for people to invest in themselves. Now, a lot of the things that I do is I tap into parts of people's brains that they're not active, right? They're just maybe dormant. They're sleeping, right? They're in autopilot. So what I kind of do is I awaken some of those things that, so getting back to what Jay said earlier, he said death, right? Now, I start off some of my seminars by saying, what will your obituary say? Right. And then people are like, off the bat, they're like, whoa, hold on, wait, I'm dead? Like what, this is, no, really, let me process this. I don't use it as an activity to be morbid, right? What I say is now someone is delivering your eulogy. What do you want them to say about you? Do you want them to say, oh, okay, well, Dan played it safe. He stayed within the lines. He didn't really do much. Yeah, maybe he was a son. Maybe he was a father. Maybe he was a husband. But other than that, he didn't do much, right? So what I really try to get people to do is to release their full potential, right? By investing in themselves. And I know it kind of sounds cliche, but it's so accurate. John had mentioned earlier the amygdala. Most people's prefrontal cortex is like severely lacking any activity, right? And so they're overly reacting to everything. So their amygdala is just always on point, fight or flight or pass out, right? Those are the 3 options: fight, flight, pass out. Okay. Now, when you're doing that, you're in autopilot, right? So I basically try to get people to say, hey, listen, it's time to actually switch it into manual, take control, get in the seat, and you start steering and you start driving. You don't like the direction your life's going? Turn it into manual. Let's go. Schedule that me time. Jay, like you mentioned, you want to go hang out in, nature, 30 minutes, an hour a day, schedule that time. Naomi, I know that you come from you wear a lot of different hats. You have to schedule that me time. And I always say that, right? If I'm worrying about everybody else all the time, constantly, when do I come into play?
Right. And this is not being selfish either, right? Like this is just
when you invest in yourself, when you focus on yourself, right? I'm not saying 100% of the time, right? When you focus on yourself, everybody around you benefits, right? You're a better, spouse, you're a better sibling, you're a better parent, you're a better everything, right? A better professional, whatever you are able to offer. When you're doing well, others will do well, right? When you're severely lacking, well, you can't be surprised that everything around you starts to fall apart, right? So that's why I say I get people to focus on the present, right? Now, Tim, you could probably relate to this, right? A lot of times with anxiety, depression, things like that, I'm living my life in the past or I'm living my life in the future. I can't live life in the past or in the future because if I'm doing that, where am I in the present?
Yeah,
right?
100%. Yeah,
it's getting that mindset, right? And you notice, like everybody's like, oh, well, this happened 10 years ago. But today is today, right? So I understand it happened. Let's learn from it. Let's move on, right? Let's focus on. I always say let's live in the present and let's prepare for the future. And
right.
That is kind of the best advice that I have. 3 words: invest in yourself, right? And we never really know what we're fully capable of until we actually release our full potential, right? And it doesn't happen by accident. Right? You don't all of a sudden like wake up one day, oh yeah, by the way, and I'm releasing my full potential. No, it has to be intentional. It has to be something that you schedule that time on a daily basis, right? I always say it's not about hitting your goals immediately. It's about progress, not perfection.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to be perfect, and everything is just not possible, right? But as long as I'm moving a little bit forward every day, that's what I'm looking to do. That's what I try to get my clients to do, my students, everybody. That's what I'm trying to do.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, John, your message seems to resonate pretty strongly with what Daniel was saying. So, add on to what he just said about this whole idea of reprogramming your brain to do better. Because when you know better, you do better, right?
You do better. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we face a lot, and if you talk to people, and for anybody out there who's doing coaching or just talking to clients in general, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. There's just not enough hours in the day. And I think between what Daniel and Jay are saying is practically the same thing. We don't create time for us. We don't create time for what we want. We don't know who we are anymore. We live for everyone else. We don't live for ourselves. Well, I can't help anyone else if I can't help myself. Like if my cup is empty, how am I going to help the others? How am I going to get up and be able to make others happy, right? And I think most of the time, I know for sure, we live our happiness based on making other people happy. But then you're going to run out. You're going to run out, and then you become depressed, and then you become agitated, and then you're no longer the person, the father, the mother, the person that you are for everyone else. So, Jay touched on it, and Daniel touched on it. I seek happiness based on what makes me happy. So I would normally ask the question, what is the one thing that if you can do that one thing every single day that would make you happy, what would that be? And a lot of people don't know anymore. They have lost that, right? If you follow me on Facebook, and I think Naomi figured this out real quick, and a lot of my friends figured it out this way, I chase sunrise and sunset. There is something about the opening of the day and the closing of the day. Sunrise gives you courage, gives you hope, gives you there is a new day, there is a new life, there is a new beginning. Sunset, whatever happened today that was negative is about to go away, and you start all over again the next morning. Again, what is your happiness? What are you willing to chase? Are you outside much? Or are you constantly cooped up indoors? And, again, this is an advice that I give everybody else who works with people. As a life coach or as a fitness professional or health and wellness professional, we tend to take on a lot of the negativity that people are sharing with you because it's their style, it's their negative style. You have to purge that. You have to get it out of your system. Otherwise, you get consumed with it and you take it to heart. And then if you're an empath, oof, it does hurt because you connect with these people. So how are you going to purge it? How are you going to get out? You find your happy moments. You find the things that you're willing to do. And like Jay said, if you're outside and you're grounded, walk outside barefoot, walk around and feel the grass between your toes, and just like meditate or prime yourself, right? And a lot of people don't prime anymore. A lot of people get up and they do things and all that stuff. And like, Sammy and I were talking a while back and she brought up the best thing ever. And I'm sorry, I've been stealing it. I've been using it, right? But when you're dark, you can't expect to be happy just by simply getting rid of the dark, right? So if you've got a wall with a dark paint on it and you go put another coat of paint on it, it's not gonna look the same. You have to prime it. And Samya gave me that example. Okay. And like, I was like, whoa, I'm stealing that one, right? Yes, because people will resonate with it, right? You have to give it that white coat. You have to prime it.
Right.
You have to get rid of that old so you can put on that new coat. You can put on that new happiness, right? And people don't prime anymore. People just in their moment all the time. They're not, you can prime and you can meditate and all that stuff, but what is the one thing that makes you happy? And when I go chase the sunrise and sunset, I'm there for 15 to 20 minutes.
So you physically go and chase the sunrise and the sunset?
I will get in the car and I've got a couple spots around home. If I'm in Tampa or wherever I am, I will find the way. You have no idea. It became an addiction. It became an addiction, but it keeps me going, right? It keeps me motivated. So why not? Like if I'm taking away 40 minutes a day for myself, imagine it, there is no way I can tell people I don't have enough time in the day anymore, because you are able to be up here. Like, Daniel said, you're no longer in the flight or fight mode. I have to do this and I have to do that. And I've got this project, I've got this meeting. No, you start realizing I will be able to block myself. I will be able to manage my life and manage everything. And you're going to manage your life and your family's life and you're still happy. You're not in the dark anymore, because it's the patterns. I go back and I keep on repeating the patterns that we create for ourselves every single day, and the patterns that we have to absorb from your businesses, patterns that you have to absorb from your families, and you take on all these patterns. No, once you realize the patterns, then you set everybody properly. You create those boundaries. All right, Naomi, these are your patterns. This is what you're going to do. This is how you need to do them, right? Daniel, these are the patterns that I'm realizing in your life. This is what you got to do. This is how you need to do them. And by the three of us working together, here are my patterns. So now it's no longer me taking on everybody else's negativity, and it's just finding your happiness. And I know we can.
Oh, yes, I know we can too. And thank you so much for that. I'm like chasing sunrises and sunsets and that whole concept of prime and Samya. We're going to get to you in 1 second. I want to stop at Tim the Sackman for a second, because when it comes to this idea of chasing sunrises and sunsets, you're traveling around the country, right? And you're and basically you're finding people who are depressed, which most people run from depressed people. When you're depressed, you'll find if you get depressed enough, people see you coming and they're running in the opposite direction, right? Because they feel like, okay, you're making me sad now, right?
Yeah.
But you're doing the opposite of that, and it's not making you depressed.
Absolutely. And I just want to say before I get into that topic that I love this panel. I love everybody here.
Me too.
You guys, we're all sharing golden nuggets out here for people. And it seems like through our research and through our life experience, we're all coming to the same realization that there are these universal truths. There are these things that we have to do. We have to establish patterns. We have to have healthy boundaries. We have to find the things that work for us, the things that make us happy, and put them into our routine so that we can be better, not just for ourselves, but for others and for the world around us.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm doing out here. I am on my journey. I've got my healthy pattern for the last 875 days. I've
Wow.
been helping others because I've been able to help myself. I've been able to finally focus on what do I need? What makes me happy? And now I can serve from a place of love and abundance instead of a place of suffering and expense.
Mm.
And that's why I'm out here, and that's why I'm not running from depressed people, because I have my healthy boundaries, I have my habits and my routine. And in the past, I tried to live for everybody else. I tried to live for love, for family, for friends, for all different types of things, and it left me completely depleted to a point where I wound up struggling with suicidal ideation and clinical depression. And it got to a point where I had to do something for me. And now that I've been able to help so many others with my self-care routine just by sharing that and just by being present. And I just want to mention too, it's also been 875 days since I've had a single thought of suicidal ideation.
Wow. That's wonderful. Wow. You know, that what I'm finding so fascinating about this is that this thread that goes through all of you, that self-care, right? Because we think, oh, I'm going to get out there and help others, and we skip self. And that's like the opposite of what we should be doing. Like the depressed
Right.
person, you could help them if you helped yourself first, right?
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
So, Samya, like this concept of priming, you know,
Yes.
because we go through stuff, right? And then we say,
Yes.
"Oh, that was terrible. That was oh, I'm going through stuff and I'm gonna get out." But the priming thing, no, like talk to me about that.
So this concept of priming came to me after years of trying to figure out what would work for me. First of all, let me just chime back in onto John because I'm like, well, we travel to Trenton all the time, which is basically an hour away from where I live. That's where we do ministry. As a matter of fact, my husband is in the streets, helping people in the streets as we are speaking. But as we are driving is usually in the evening, and I'm always looking at the sky, and I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, are you looking at that? And my girls are like, oh my God, mom, yes, we know it's a sunset. And I'm like, no, it is not just the sunset. Look how marvelous it is. It is never the same. Look at all the colors and look at all the shapes. And they're like, oh my gosh, like, yes, mom, yes, we got it, we got it. But basically, it just came to me as I have battled my mental health for so long since I was 14. I was diagnosed with borderline schizophrenia. Um I had bipolar disorder. I had severe anxiety, severe depression, and doing this for since I was 14 and I'm about to be 30, well, 38. Um Basically I had to learn to see that whatever I focus on grows. So I had to learn to shift my mindset little by little. Surely I had to develop a whole technique that would work for me. I primed my brain, and that's where it basically came to. I had to learn not to wake up in the morning and go onto the TV, not to wake up in the morning and go straight to my phone. I put in an audio and I listen to my devotional. And after I do my devotional and after I have my moments of reflection, I will do at least a 20-minute workout. That's how I begin to prime my brain. I begin to have all of those hormones flowing. I begin to set my intentions for the day. I begin to set my thoughts because just like Naomi, I handle many hats. I have three girls. One is 21 who, is in college, but she's a mama's girl. I have another one who's in high school and a middle schooler. We handle a church. We handle a business. We handle so many things. And I had to learn that in order for me to give to so many people, I had to take care of me first. I had to take care
Mm.
of my heart. I had to take care of my mind. I couldn't pour out of an empty cup. So then I found myself after I had developed this technique, and I would preach on it all the time. Well, not preach on it from like an altar, but I would share about it for so long. And people were like, yeah, 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 okay, okay, okay. Um, when the pandemic hit, a lot of Latinos who don't normally know what it is like to battle uh, anxiety and depression, this pandemic hit, and they were like, wait, what are we experiencing? What is this? How do we do this? And they began to come to me, and they were like, what do I do? What do I do? Because they've never experienced these things before. I think that I can chime in a little bit back to what Jay was talking about. A lot of these people are coming in, but they're coming in from different countries where they're able to experience the sunrise, and they are touching the soil, and they're eating things that are not as chemically processed. We
Uh-huh.
do live in a land of opportunity, and we are very blessed to be living in a land of opportunity. However, we are surrounded by stressors all the time. We are leaving our house and going into another building, then coming back into another building, and just running, running, running all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this just kills off not just our immune system, but our mental health, like all of these things all at once. Um, so I had to like sit down with them, and that's where basically, after counseling so many people, Creados para Más came to be, because I was like, wait, we have all of these resources that we can't exactly be talking about from an altar, specifically, but I can provide all of these tools to the Latino community. So we began to provide all of these tools, from social workers to, my different specialties, so on and so forth, to teach them, hey, go chase that sunset. That sunset matters. Hey, stop turning on the TV very first thing in the
Yes.
morning. Focus on you. Focus on you, because you matter. Your dreams do matter. In the middle of the chaos, there's still beauty. There are still
Mhm.
so many things that you can focus on. There's still the collateral beauty. I forgot what movie that was on, but it was a Will Smith movie, where at the end he basically talks about focusing on the collateral beauty of it all. And I had to learn to do that. Like I said before, I lost so many family members, and with that, my dad. I was blessed with two dads, and both of them died from suicide, because they were all connected to drugs in some way or another. One had AIDS, and the other one lost his battle, narcotics, and all of these things, and alcoholism. Um, so through it all, I had to learn to see the collateral beauty of it all. And instead of focusing on my pain and focusing on how much that hurt me, I began to use that and that story to be able to help out other people and help them to rise above their heart. So that's how it all came to be. That's how I use my priming, and not just help myself, but help out those around us, and be like, hey, there's still hope. You can go from fear to hope, and from hope to courage.
Oh, that's so wonderful. That is so wonderful. And, I feel like you all here are doing God's work. And we're running out of time because we could do this for hours. Like,
Yes.
seriously, I'm like, I've got my shot of hope for today and for
Yes.
sure from this conversation. So I want each and every one of you to tell the audience quickly where they can find you. Let's start with Jay.
You can find me at herbalchemistry.com. That's herbal chemistry spelled with a K instead of a CH. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I think all the social handles. I generally put out videos on nuggets whenever I'm outside, whatever nature tells me to say, I express it. So you can find me there. You can also reach us by phone at 732-783-6112 or 6113.
Wonderful. John?
I am on Facebook, John Salama, or on Instagram, Elevate Consulting. And between those two, you can find me. I don't have a website yet, but working on it. And you can always find me at 678-964-6521.
Wonderful. Tim?
You can find me at Sack Life Official, one word, on Instagram. And just think, hit the sack, save your life. Sack Life.
Wonderful. Daniel?
Both on Facebook and Instagram, you could find me at, all one word, Release Your Full Potential. And you can find me, my website is releaseyourfullpotential.com.
Samya?
Both on Facebook and Instagram, you can find me as Samya Ruiz, Santos. And you can also find us on Creados para Más on Facebook, which translates to Created for More. We are on air every single Wednesday at 7 o'clock, sharing all tidbits of how to rise above.
And Naomi, from fear to hope to courage, right?
That's right.
Where can we find this?
That's right. So definitely on hopetocourage.com, we have a YouTube playlist of all of these amazing interviews we've had with everyone, all the golden nuggets they've shared. And I know we're running out of time, but I just want to close with this thought to everyone that, whatever you put inside of you, it's what you're going to be pouring out. So, if you've heard this analogy that somebody bumps into you with a cup of coffee and you spill the coffee, you think it's because somebody bumped into you, but you spill coffee because what was inside was coffee. So whatever you're putting in you is
I
what
like
you're going
that.
to pour out. And if you have a conversation with people like this, we will convince you that there is a better world out there. We will convince you of hope. So sit with people like this. Fill your mind, fill your body with positivity, with hope, because that's exactly what you will then pour out. And if one person touches another, then we continue to spread this message of hope to courage. And we know we can do it.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you all for coming today. And I want to say to the audience again, first off, let us know what you think in the comments because we all love feedback. I want you to go to all of their pages and their social media. Let them know what you think. Give them encouragement. Give them your attention, right? Because if you want to feel better, we all know the concept of garbage in, garbage out, right? But
That's
let's
right.
let's change that and start putting some goodness in so we can get some goodness out,
Yes.
right? So that's what we have to do. So thank you guys for coming, and
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
we'll see
Thank
you
you
next
so
week.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. And we will see you guys next week, same time, same place. As a child, no matter how tough things were sometimes, my mom took excellent care of herself. She took excellent care of us too. And she helped so many people in our community. One of the things she always says is that in order to take really good care of us, she had to be in prime working order. She's right. There goes that idea again. Where does change begin? It begins with you. It begins with you and me. We have to see the value in ourselves, enough so that we see ourselves as being important enough to care for. Only then can we truly see the value in those around us. That's where authentic work and relationships are born. That is what radiates out into humanity to change the world. As quoted from the song Greatest Love of All, written by Michael Masser, learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. I'm Samya Simone, and thank you for watching What's Your View?